how many times we have World War III?
Yeah.
Right. Also, as well, is what did all conflicts in the Middle East stop?
Yeah.
Right. Well, when did they stop? I didn't get that memo. Okay, so hello, welcome back, beautiful people. So this is Truth and Light, episode 4.
Yep.
There's a bunch of things that we need to cover today, and we're gonna let Nicola be the DJ as you were last time.
Yeah.
Done such a great job slapping us on the wrist and keeping the mandate.
Yep.
So, what would you like to cover today?
So today I thought we could start off with the Golden Globes 2020, Ricky Gervais.
Ooh.
Absolutely amazing way to start the year. Literally so excited. That was just the best thing ever. And then we'll go into a little bit more serious topic of Iran and Trump.
Okay.
And then also we can kind of discuss Meghan and Harry. They've just broke the news recently this week with their announcement. In terms of their relationship with the royal family. And then we can also go into the autopsy for Jeffrey Epstein if we have time to do that, because there was new stuff that came out about that recently.
Okay, disclaimer, I've been in a cave the last few weeks, as you all know, just sorting out all things Bitstocks and Gravity. So I'm actually looking forward to this. I'm actually excited. This is a bit of an update for me as well. So yeah, let's do this. Let's start. Let's go.
Golden Globes. Okay, who wants to kick it off? What do you think?
First of all, I completely agree with what you both said. It was absolutely amazing. I can't remember what day it actually was, but woke up first thing, and that's the first thing that I actually saw on that particular day. Then jumped onto the group chat instantly, threw it into the group chat, and I'm pretty sure it was laughs all round because there was a lot of truth to it, but mixed in with a lot of jokes.
It was just truth bombs delivered in as comedy. And I've never been a huge Gervais fan, right? I wasn't a fan of The Office. To be fair, I didn't really give it much of a shot. I was always busy, right? But how he delivered what he said,
It was just...
right? It was just gold. It was literally gold. And it was truth bomb after truth bomb. And it was teased and it was done in a way that it was like, well, you could come at me, but you just make me right.
Yeah.
So you kind of can't come at me, and I don't really care about not being here next year. And so, yeah.
Yeah, it was literally like, let's just have it. I don't care. Like, let's go for it.
Before we start going through like what he was actually saying, just on his tonality as well, and the way he delivered his message was very much just like you said, don't care. Literally, I'm going to say whatever I want to say. You lot could do whatever you want, and pretty much I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
That is literally exactly how it was. And his tone as well is pretty much, for me, what delivered the message home. Really delivered the message home.
No, it was wicked. So
Joined with Tom Hanks's face.
Joined with
so
that.
that's what I was asking.
That was amazing.
So off that room, who do you reckon had the most oh shit reaction to what Ricky was saying? And who do you reckon got caught off guard the most? I know who my opinion is on that.
I know, I've got my opinion as well.
Who do you reckon acting skills just activated in and they managed to hold it down a bit with their reactions to what he was saying? I
think Tom Hanks was just, he gave himself away.
Oh.
Fully gave himself away. This is why I think it was maybe a little bit...
Woody was pissed.
Yeah.
Woody from Toy Story was pissed.
This one makes me sad though, because I'm such a Toy Story fan. So that was a little bit sad for me. But at the end of the day, justice needs to be served. And Tom Hanks's face was absolutely amazing. And I do think that the way that they did the camera angles, the fact that he was shown from the very beginning, before he was even, a joke was even targeted at him, they knew what they were doing.
I reckon with Tom Hanks, so just on Tom Hanks. So with Tom Hanks, there's been rumors. There's nothing really necessarily been concrete, but there has been rumors about Tom Hanks having like a sex slave and being involved in weird activity.
That was only 2018, the sex slave thing, I think. And there was allegations against him.
But the reaction was quite telling. I think, in fact, and like you said, they really put a lot of camera time on Tom, right? And so much so that I probably reckon afterwards, he's probably like to the Golden Globes, like, what so much? right?
And sit me at the front.
You can tell I'm pissed. All right, who do you reckon had the most, I guess, benign reaction and the most controlled
Leonardo.
reaction?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was about to go. Yeah.
I think
That's the reason why he's a great actor.
Yeah.
He held that down real well.
He did.
Real well.
That joke was absolutely hilarious.
But to be fair, I've not heard anything about Leo.
I've heard. See, this is the thing. With Leo, it's not so much as concrete as, say, Tom Hanks, in the sense of there's like loads of allegations against him. But I've heard rumors or things going around that he kind of does like little boys.
Ooh.
Yes.
Oof. Okay, that's strong.
Yeah. So the whole age kind of related joke, that's how I depicted it based off the things that I've heard. But again, that's not anything that's concrete. But so I do feel like he handled himself well.
What did Gervais say?
Something about him having a date, and by the end of it,
Let's talk about The Irishman.
Yeah,
right.
and also
I've yet to watch it. Have you seen that film?
No, I
no,
haven't
I've
seen it
actually
yet.
not watched
I haven't
it.
seen it yet.
Genuinely, I was laughing just from the joke, right? Even without all the background as to where these jokes are coming from. But I remember sitting there, laying down in bed with Lisa on Netflix, and I was like, this Irishman film is meant to be really good. I was like, let's watch Irishman. But when I said this, it was 11 o'clock at night.
It's so long, isn't
right?
it?
That I checked the time. It's like 3 hours and 42 minutes. That's way too long.
Mom took like 3 days to watch that film.
Are
I
you
was like,
serious?
I don't really know if I'm on this.
Kept on falling asleep.
Yeah, literally.
Sorry, Mum.
Yeah, sorry, Mum. But that was hilarious. When he said that by the end of the movie, Leo's date was too old for him.
Yeah.
That was savage. Absolutely savage.
That was really funny.
Also, I think another person that was very telling as well, and it makes complete sense because he was one of the people that were mentioned that weren't an actor, Tim Cook.
Oh, that was
Yes.
brilliant.
Or
That
Tim
made me
Apple.
Yeah, Tim
smile.
Apple. Tim Apple.
Tim Apple, yeah. That made me smile to my soul, right? Because if you think about it, Tim's probably grafted his way to get into that room, get into that position, to be amongst all like the stars, right? He looked a bit chipper about himself. He's like, "Ooh, I'm here." Yeah. And then he got a mention in a positive way. So it's like Apple's put out their first content. And I was like, what do you say? It's around good ethics.
TV drama around good ethics.
etc., right? And Tim Cook felt well chuffed with himself. You could see it in his face. And then Rich coming from a company that's got sweatshops. Like the camera didn't even go back on Tim. I could only imagine how sour that face went from being, oh yeah, I'm getting my props to like,
do you know what this reminds
That's such a shame as well. I wish we did see his face.
That Kanye West gif where he's there all smiling, laughing, and then
That is brutal. I mean, so if just from so look at it deeper, right? So let's lift up the veil a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think he done it? And why do you think he was allowed to do it? And in fact, we'll start on those two.
Okay. With that question, I think it'd make sense for us to talk about the 2019 Golden Globes. Because for me, this actually wasn't so much of a shock. I mean, it was a shock in the sense that it was so blatant with this one. But with the 2019 Golden Globes, you had kind of the little hints that control was kind of being moved on into the light rather than the shadows.
Because 2019 was Weinstein stuff predominantly, right?
Yes. So
Or was that in the
had
Golden Globe? But I know it was a big story, but...
Yeah, so the Golden Globes, remember when they went around and vaccinating all the celebrities?
Oh,
that was
crap.
2019 Golden Globes.
Yeah, that was a big deal. Yeah, that was a very, very, very symbolic, cryptic message. Yeah.
So you had that, and then you also had when they were taking the photos at the red carpet, there was a woman in the back who literally,
bottles,
who photobombed every single image that was taken on the red carpet, and she was standing there with literally Fiji water bottles, and obviously that was a big source of human trafficking at the time. I'm not too sure if it still is, but at the time it was. And then they also showed clips of the film White Squall, I think it's called. My pronunciation, I'm not probably a bit wrong. But they basically showed the bell of where we go, all we go one. What was it? When we go one, we go all.
Oh, yeah.
And that was at the time of the yellow vest movement as well. So it was.
And also that's
they
a
were
QAnon
throwing
strapline
symbols.
as well.
Exactly, yeah. So they were throwing symbols out there from 2019.
So your alliance clearly has reign, or the benevolent forces have reign over this event.
Yeah. And this was like 2020 was, you know what? Okay, cool. We actually have full reign over this now.
There's something interesting that Gervais said in reference to Weinstein, basically saying that you guys all fucked with him. I didn't.
Yeah.
Right? Talking about the private planes.
Oh, Epstein.
No. Weinstein. He was talking about Harvey Weinstein, right? Not Epstein. He said he's all your mate. But he didn't make any reference to himself into that.
Yeah.
But it was around the Harvey Weinstein subject, right? He was like, oh, he was your mate. It wasn't like, basically, he separated himself.
Yeah.
Like, you guys turned a blind eye to this guy, right? And...
Oh, yes, I remember talking about
he separated himself like from that. And there had to have been a conversation that was very, very orchestrated. There's no way that they didn't know in this very heightened time of our political sphere that this wouldn't go viral.
Yeah.
Right? So they knew what it was that they're doing. It's beautiful that they've actually done it, especially when it's like right slap bang, first set of the year, basically first week of the year, right? And
couple days, I think.
Yeah, and this is how we kickstart 2020.
And it's something that you mentioned as well. And it's also proving that it was orchestrated at the same time. The camera angles, who they were actually pinpointing in the crowd, who was actually being spoken about in in his speech in general. It does seem very orchestrated to just completely blow open everything that everyone's been talking about for a while now. You've got everyone pretty much in one concentrated room, and you've got a person on the stage pretty much not caring and just saying whatever he wants to say. And then you've got people sitting there and you can see their facial expressions right then, there in the moment.
So many oh shit
for
moments.
everyone to see.
Yeah. So many oh shit moments. So segueing this into then, I guess, next subject matter for Epstein, considering as he was referenced and mentioned. Give me the latest. What's the latest, Epstein?
So the latest on Epstein, we've got a autopsy that's come out. What was it called, the title?
Yeah.
See, I've not actually seen these images yet. Right, I've seen one, I think, of the cell, but I haven't actually like dissected and really looked. So I'm actually excited to talk about this. So
there was actually a recent report done. It's actually on YouTube. I think it was 60-minute overtime. The closer look. Now, the person that was actually presenting, they mentioned the person that is actually investigating into it, who was hired by Mark Epstein. Mark Epstein, of course, being Epstein's brother, wanting to find out what has actually happened to his brother. In terms of this...
Karma, bitch.
Yeah. But bear in mind that this is a person that is hired by his brother. So I'm not too sure on it being genuine, but the sort of stuff that they were talking about, it does seem to be that way, that they're actually just trying to find out what the fuck happened, pretty much.
But what did it... Because obviously this is very, very controversial subject matter, right? Cameras went out, still no footage provided on cameras, okay? Apparently he had broken collarbone, broken jaw.
So he had 3 fractures to his neck as well. He had damage to the back of his neck, and he already tried to commit suicide allegedly. So he was on like hyper suicide watch
within a couple of weeks. I think that was his alleged one, and then the actual.
And now, months later, we now have images surface of his apparent cell and images of him. Right?
Of his legs and his back and the back of his head.
So what does this do to the public narrative? So the mainstream narrative of he committed suicide. How do these recent developments fit into that? Does it support the fact they committed suicide?
No.
I can't say that with a straight face.
No, it doesn't.
So how does this blow things open even more then? Because
the main thing that they're still really trying to find out is that they don't know how his body was left, right? Or how his body was found, sorry. So no, they don't know that information. Therefore, it's impossible to know his cause of death, really.
Yeah.
So even to be able to say that he's killed himself, you can't even say that because that's not provable.
The thing is, at the moment, is that the question marks are being applied, and especially
have you got
someone,
images? Can you bring up images?
especially from someone like his brother. The person who actually got to look into it is a guy called Dr. Michael Baden, and that's who Mark Epstein actually hired, and that's the guy that is actually on the 60-minute overtime interview at that particular time. Now, he also had another injury. So there's a few variables that people are still completely sure about. One of them being, of course, how his body was found in the first place. And the second being the injection that he had on his arm. So they're actually waiting to see what that injection was, because no one knows right now. So they're waiting from the MCC to basically get information back, which that information isn't being released, whether that was medical or not.
So wait.
How that's supposed to happen with...
So what material was used, allegedly, for him to strangle himself? He ripped up his jumpsuit.
Apparently, yeah. And that's created a blooded neck, like
But
the images show.
do they wear these jumpsuits when you're in suicide watch? These ones like this?
Not
It isn't meant to be like some
100%
really
sure.
thin cotton like suit.
Pretty much everything that you should have, there should be nothing for you to be able to commit any form of suicide. And even the room that you're in, the guards that are meant to be on the outside, there should be no way possible for you to commit any form of suicide.
So his neck's, well, it's bloody, but the blood's obviously rushed to the surface of his skin, whether or not it's overflowed. Is this the noose?
Yeah, this is only 4 days ago, this article.
Oh yeah, multiple nooses fashioned from the orange bedding. So that's bedding.
So they locked him in a room and said, "There you go."
They locked him in a room with a sheet that he can hang himself with on suicide watch. That ain't logical.
And also he had something called facticae. Bear in mind, I'm not 100% sure whether I pronounced that right. But
That sounded like something to do with VR, haptic. We're looking at haptic gloves, haptic suits.
So what that so that shouldn't happen in a suicide. That's from someone applying pressure to possibly his neck, and the fact that and the fact that he has 3 different fractures in his neck as well. That isn't something that is common with a suicide, with someone hanging themselves. It's from someone applying pressure.
But there's a bunk bed here. He had a cellmate, right?
No.
Yeah.
There's so many questions. So many questions.
Incredible amount of questions.
still.
I mean, looking at these photos now, look how much stuff is in that room.
Yeah.
So this guy is on the highest level of suicide watch, and there's a bunch of things in there. And why isn't his toilet a hole in the ground as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. And not just the fact that, of course, he was on suicide watch, but of the importance of the individual as well. So the fact that he was an unsealed indictment from one of these indictments that we've been talking about for a long time now.
They're well in excess of 140,000, I think they are now. In excess
over
of.
that now.
And he also ties in a lot of those people that are currently sitting in that room in the Golden Globes. And that's why Ricky Gervais made the jokes that he did with the private planes, saying that this time round, you lot had to get your own planes here.
There's a recent images surface of Clinton as well, Bill Clinton on his plane with Ghislaine Maxwell.
Oh, really?
As well. Yeah, like this stuff is like really...
Yeah.
What they done by murdering the guy, let's call it as it is, whoever it was, okay? Clearly you're protecting their agenda, right? But if you think about the risk, okay? If you weigh that up, this guy's in prison for being the most prolific kingpin, pedophile ringmaster, okay? His role in the fabric of the effed up society is basically he runs a blackmail ring, right? So he gets all these high profile actors, actresses, politicians, businessmen, and gets them caught up in their disgusting antics, right? And a lot of the semantics behind it is like cult, secret societies, etc. they're all making their little packs and their power plays. And the initiation process, stepping up the ladder, involves more effed up things. So they can start off with, say, like animal related stuff, right? Putting themselves in a casket and staying in the casket for like 24 hours, right? And then it gets higher and higher and higher, like masturbating in the casket, like loads of crazy things.
Yeah.
Right?
There was an image that came out with Lady Gaga.
Spoon cooking.
Yeah, when
There's
they're
so
on
many with her.
when they're on the yacht, and then they literally had someone in a casket covered in blood.
Yeah, and then she was...
Yeah, and then that's where you're basically getting your drink from. So
that stuff ties into obviously
conditioning.
things like adrenochrome, the apparent drug of the elites, when certain hormones get released into the blood of a puberty child, releases hormones in the blood, and it's like a crazy high for these people, and apparently has anti-aging properties. Right?
Who was that guy that got arrested, and then the reporter who exposed him then got was put on suicide? That she died by suicide, but she exposed him for having a sex slave farm where they were literally using women.
You took out the Brazilian guy.
Yeah, what's his name? Joe or something.
He had some weird religious kind of name. John the Baptist?
I think so.
I feel like that come from somewhere else. It was, and there was some like really crazy things when she was being interviewed.
Yeah.
Or when he got taken into the police station, some dark magic, crazy stuff.
John of God.
John of God, that's it.
He was the faith healer. That's what he was
So
doing.
like all of these people are tied in. Like it's a web, right?
Yeah.
It's a global web. So this is how you have like him associated with so many people.
Yeah.
So if he has like this crazy archive, which this ties into so many hacks as well, like Facebook breaches, iCloud breaches, because then some of those celebrity photos and stuff got leaked out, remember, a few years back, right? But those were just drops in the ocean. I was not saying, look, we got your stuff now, right? So it's coming, right? And
I actually totally forgot about that.
I
totally forgot
all
about
these
that.
pieces, man.
It's
All
been
these
happening
pieces,
for a few years, hasn't
right?
it? Yeah.
So that information's out there somewhere, right? Of the things that these people have done, high probability people like Epstein and his organization were recording this stuff. He's probably got archives after archives of high profile politicians, celebrities, etc. on camera doing the most effed up things.
Yeah.
Genuine proof of the crimes against humanity, right? And there's no way you're going to be able to spin this story in the media by taking him out.
Yeah.
And yet the action and order was still made. Screw it. It doesn't matter if we can't cover this up and everyone's going to know this is suicide.
Yeah.
As long as people, like what we're doing here, we're speaking from a relatively informed standpoint, but yet we still can't conclusively say he 100%
Exactly.
didn't kill himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Now, that question mark alone, they weighed up the risk and thought, okay, as long as people can unless there's still a little bit of a question mark, take this guy out. Right? Because the risk profile is that high. Well, clearly that crack has been fully blown open because it gives someone now like the Golden Globes and Ricky Gervais the confidence to step in and think, you guys are nowhere near as strong as you once were.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak now, right? It's all correlated.
Yeah.
All of these things are absolutely freaking correlated. And this makes me so damn excited about what this year is about.
Yeah, so talking about correlations, obviously we know Prince Andrew's well connected to Epstein. There's been images of him shown at Epstein's house in New York whilst there's loads of females leaving the property.
That guy just looks like a creep. Andrew.
Yeah, so we know the scandal. I think we briefly kind of spoke about it on our last episode. But then let's talk about the whole Meghan and Harry news that's broken out recently. So basically they've issued a statement. I can even read it out.
I remember you mentioned this yesterday briefly. I had no idea about this.
And you know what? One of the key indicators to all of this that's currently going on is, and one thing that Q mentioned is look for the resignations across the board.
Yeah.
Of course, a lot of them are happening in Google at the moment, and look at all of the high-powered people.
Literally, both stepped down at the same point.
Both of them.
I can't find it right now, but we'll bring it up on the screen
This
after.
ties into everything. So even the royal family, for example, the fact that they want to pretty much get out of the royal family and remove themselves from everything that's going on.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, I've got playing in my head of just saying that. You know that Homer Simpson meme where he
It goes back in the head.
he faces out and he goes back in the head.
Yeah.
That is literally one of my favorite memes ever.
It's hilarious. Once all this stuff has come out, we're like, oh.
But you know, I can only assume what you're going to go start saying, and like by all means, you're going to start flowing. But I really hope that whatever Harry is doing and Harry's profile is a pure one. Because his mum was a pure, beautiful soul.
Yeah.
And people do research on like the subject of Diana and how she was assassinated and the symbolism behind assassination, like even down to the number of the pillar number as to where the car was actually blown up. Well, I say blown up, but they said it's crashed. She was going to speak out against a lot of things that are Epstein related. And I hope he's a chip on the old block. So
they basically announced that they're going to be taking a step back from their royal duties. So they don't want to be kind of superior members of the royal family anymore. And they're going to be designating their time between the United Kingdom and North America. So that's what they've announced. And they also announced that on Instagram, on social media, before obviously speaking to the Queen about it, apparently.
Yeah.
That's do you know what that is? Jerk, chicken, rice and peas and plantain. I take my jerk
The grass
chicken.
is greener.
So what's this fried banana?
This queen, this royal chef can't make jerk chicken.
I'm off to North
Meghan,
America.
Tell Ramsey we're coming. I want that cornbread, that callaloo.
Funny enough, you're saying that because they did actually hint at the fact that they're thinking about moving away from the public eye when they did when they were in Africa at the back end of last year. I think it's called An African Journey. So they did a couple of interviews there, and that was it. The interview that I showed you of Harry, where he was basically talking about the backlash that Meghan's had with the media, and he actually issued a statement like 3 years ago. Basically saying, look, the media needs to step back. I don't want a repeat of what happened to my mum. And there's racial undertones. Like he went for it with the media and said, you need to step back, basically. So with that interview in the African Journey, he said, as a father, as a husband, if you knew what I knew, you'd be doing the same thing.
That's powerful.
So
especially in the
powerful.
context of today. That's powerful. So what do you... It's wrong to speculate, right? Considering how much is going on and to taint everyone with a tarnished, like, same brush. But with that being said, what do you speculate he meant by that?
In my opinion, obviously it's before the Prince Andrew stuff really became public. But if you're within that family, you probably know things that are going on. Exactly. So I think it's a reference to the media, but I think he took his opportunity to say more in the undertones than what he was letting off.
And the thing that I have the sort of same opinion as you of Harry. I really do hope he's following his mother's footsteps, because even the way he lives his life, he's following his mother's footsteps. I've actually heard of a few people actually seen him out on nights out. So he really does.
Mayfair boy, isn't he?
Yeah, Mayfair boy. Mr. Frogs, I think it was. But he does follow those footsteps. And even, of course, the person that he's decided to marry up with as well. Something that is completely against the grain. And the fact that Meghan Markle is course, of color, not just of color, from her background, because of course she was in suits, something that I'm pretty sure his family would have turned their nose up at a little bit.
100%.
So fingers crossed, that is exactly what he's doing. He's following the footsteps of what his mother's doing. And now he's removing himself from all of that. And it does start to look like those houses of cards are going to start tumbling down.
I think this is going to be the biggest challenge for everyone, ourselves included, right? That when these revelations really do start coming up, because we've been anticipating them for a while, right? And we've tried to inform people about this. This is why I was doing the Awakening series, speaking about a lot of this stuff that's now unfolding, pretty much how it is that we spoke and how this stuff will unfold. Why I'd done the presentation a couple of years back about Hollywood. Sometimes you get the odd comment, people are like, well, I don't get what this has got to do with everything else it is that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it's got everything to do with what it is that we're doing, because we're talking about a restructuring, a real restructuring. Bitcoin ain't going to come on the scene and just rise to its truest potential, right? Unless it actually has a fair ground and a fair playing ground in order to be able to do so, right? So there are so many things that need to clean up and clear up before a lot of different technologies could come through. Bitcoin's just one of them, like energy is another. There's a variety of different things that are being held back because of these types of power structures. But the point I was making isn't about the technological standpoint. It's about a lot of these human beings, because they're all human beings. It doesn't matter if it's the most evil human being or it's the most benevolent human being, right? They're human beings. And by that means there are our brothers and sisters, irrespective of how messed up and how much you want to probably kick one of them in the bollocks, right? They're human beings. We have to take responsibility as a collective, right?
Yeah.
But also at the same time, a lot of these human beings are born into these situations.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine being Harry. Imagine having Harry's upbringing. Yeah. Your mum gets assassinated.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's a high likelihood, it seems, that he probably knows exactly what happened and why it happened. Right? And then have to conform to the order. And then you got to think this guy also knows about the ritualistic practices. He's just had his first child.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, these are such areas that actually, even now, like, I'm getting tingles. I don't like talking about this type of stuff. Right? But this is where our own humanity needs to step through, and we need to have a balanced compass of discernment when we're seeing these events play out, and we have to maintain our humanity, right? It doesn't mean that these people shouldn't absolutely be held accountable for what it is that they have done. 100 billion%, right? Yeah. But we need to look at how do we even get to this point now? And this will, I guess, segue into maybe things about Iran and other things, right? But I imagine the way that we've even got to the point where things are being cleaned up, where Ricky can say what it is that he wishes to say, right? Where the stuff is now catching wind and going viral, is because soldiers, patriots, men and women around the world who have been part of these rings, whether they've been born into it, coerced into it, manipulated into it, blackmailed into it, right? Where do you think the changes have been coming from?
Yeah,
the high probability is it's the same people who are part of these rings who are speaking out. And this is how you get whistleblowers, right? And I think it's too easy for keyboard warriors and Twitter warriors and internet warriors to have all the opinions in the world and then lose their humanity when they think, oh, well, how do you think these changes even actually happened?
Yeah.
It's not that clear cut. It's a very, very messy situation. It's difficult to clean up.
Yeah. And it's completely true, because all of this very much is interlinked, from technology, from energy, from information, from everything that we are currently doing here. That's why we talk about all of these different topics. Like, for example, technology, the stuff that we spoke about in our last episode, Salvador Pius.
The patents.
In Spanish, what does that mean? The savior of humanity. That's what it translates to. And the reasons why is because those power structures are now completely diminishing. He released those patents open source. So a gift to
Yeah.
the world, pretty much. Now, those sort of technologies, it allows us to do so much more. Just like, for example, Bitcoin, it allows us to do so much more. The real version of Bitcoin, BSV. Keeping governments honest. So once this cleanup process is done, it's just keeping honest and applying accountability to everyone. And this is how all of these things really do interlinked.
And that's why Bitcoin really is such an important component.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is light, right? It genuinely is the light bulb, okay? And the reason why they haven't want that light to go on is because they want to maintain their shadows, right? And you can have, in order to have shadows, you need some light. So let it be a little bit dim, let it cast shadows, let us thrive in the shadows in which it's casted, but we can never allow it to overpower us. Okay, and we've had 11 years of that bullshit, right? And then what they've done instead is had loads of little dim lights all around the freaking world. This project, that project. Everyone reinventing the wheel under the guise, ironically, of being pro-humanity and people being disruptors and people who want to actually change and break the system that we had prior that wasn't serving us as a global collective. But they put all of their campaigns and their promotions under collectivism for humanity, all right? But really and truly, all they do is nothing but divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Literally, all they're doing is divide and conquer, the complete opposite of what they're claiming on doing. And it's not a new technique. It's not even a freaking ingenious technique. It's just so easy to execute when you've got the media outlets and the influence and the money to buy the influence, right?
Have you read that book by, Nicola Machiavelli? It's called The Prince. He basically spoke about all of that. And it's literally like, if you think about everything that's going on in the conversation that we just had and the way you explain that, if you read that book, it's literally like their guidebook. Talking about dividing and conquer, how to play both sides, how to really rule, and just how to get your agenda across.
That's why democracy is bullshit.
Yeah.
Dictatorship's bullshit, right? True democracy, if you have the light on, cool, all right? But that's not what we have. What we have is the illusion of democracy, and you have the overlords on top of that. So and then you've got all of your technologies in order to coerce the opinion of the masses. This is why media and the control of media is so important. Complete control of the educational system is so important. Complete control of what you're putting in your body in terms of chemicals, because your body is what? A combination of fucking chemicals. You've got billion chemical reactions happening every single second. So if I can influence that through vaccinations, if I can influence that through what it is that you're eating in your food, if I can influence that through fluoride in water, if I can influence that through chemtrails, if I can influence that in so many different ways, and then the mind programming through programs that will run off the back of World War II with Nazi Germany, things like MK Ultra, Project Paperclip, where they took Nazi scientists, funded them through South America into freaking America, and guess what? Oh, we had NASA.
Yeah.
Right? If you have so much control over the chessboard, okay, let the people think there's a democracy.
Yeah.
Right? But when the people don't vote for what we want them to vote for, right, that's when we have what we have now. Because what they've had is the same process, but it's always been going their way because they've been getting right. So you had the Clintons, you had the fucking Obamas in office, right? Everything was going their way, so it seemingly looked cool, right? But as soon as something, for the first time, didn't go their way, then you realize, whoa, maybe this ain't a democracy.
Yeah.
Right? Because clearly they're very upset about this.
Yeah.
They're not willing to play ball for the sake of the country because this is what the country wanted. And guess what? We had the exact same thing here in the UK with Brexit, right? And this is why
100%.
from a my standpoint, I was very pro-leave, because what you have is a bunch of freaking bureaucrats, which I can't name off the top of my head. Most people cannot name off the top of their head. The bureaucrats from the EU who dictate the laws that are then put on this land, which is apparent so-called democratic process, right? And these are the intimate, invisible layers of glue that people don't really realize pieces all of this stuff together. This is why I say when someone like me comes out and I start speaking out against certain things, I try to do it in a very holistic way, because there are so many components that people need to factor in, right? But because the situation, the subject matter is so dense, you're talking about hours and hours and hours of giving someone a download. Like, who really has got the time and the attention and the capacity to take a huge download like that?
And it's also how much information people can ingest in a single sitting. People remember if you do sit there talking to them for 3 to 4 hours, just give them pretty much a snapshot of everything that's currently going on, they're only going to remember about 5 things.
And for the most part, people don't want to know. And do you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. Ignorance is a genuine freaking bliss. There are certain areas which I've researched and genuinely brought me to tears.
Yeah.
Right. That's how painful a lot of this stuff is. But if you want change and want to be part of that change, is necessary, it's required for people to do that effort. And this is why with us, irrespective of what is it we're talking about, even like now, I don't consider us authorities. Right, just go out, do your research. It's healthy, right? It really is healthy to go out there and start training and educating yourself, because at the end of the day, you are kings and queens of your own dominion, right? And you have to take responsibility of that. Iran.
Yes, Iran. So I'm gonna read. Actually, on that note that you just said about the Democrats being very upset about Trump going into office, I actually saw a tweet about the new voting polls, and it's so...
Does it have George Soros logo on it?
No, get it up.
He's disappeared.
He has, isn't it? Yeah.
With him, to this day, I do not understand how the man can so openly speak about everything and like pretty much have his have his hands in literally everything and get away with and go unanswered.
There's a lot of people
absolutely everyone.
There's a lot of people disappeared that we haven't seen in a while. I think the last time Soros was seen, correct me if I'm mistaken, I think it was January last year. There's been not much on him. Like at all. There are a lot of people. I think there are a lot of people in their little bunkers now. There's reports about most celebrities and like elites buying bunkers in New Zealand. Right? I think a lot of people are chilling in their bunkers now. Funny enough, you know, Iran. I know we're going to Iran now. Apparently, there was an earthquake.
I heard about this.
With North Korea as well, there was an earthquake.
Yeah.
Right? And obviously stuff that happened in the States with that underground base. I think Salt Lake. Was it Salt Lake base?
It was
China Lake. China Lake. Seems to be a lot of earthquakes around some very important things that have happened.
And
and then you got DUMBs, right? So deep underground military bases, DUMBs.
Easy way to destroy, right? To destroy them. Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting.
That's a shame. I can't find it, but we can put all of this on the screen later.
Is Iran a known earthquake jurisdiction?
I'm not too sure.
Not 100% sure, but it was also near a power station as well. Not that far off from one of their main power stations.
There's loads of things.
When I actually saw that as well, light bulb. So
Okay, so yeah, basically what's been going on at the moment is that Trump issued a drone strike on Qasem Soleimani. So he is, obviously my wording in this, I'm going to call him a terrorist.
I think that's very fair, Nicola.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's fair as well.
I don't think that's not what his name is said next to Wikipedia, but he's a terrorist in my opinion. So yeah, he basically issued a drone strike on him, and that was on the 3rd of January, I believe. And then since then, we've had hashtags World War III go absolutely viral on Twitter, Instagram. Everyone's going crazy. Some people are supporting Trump about what he's did, and other people are saying he's a complete, nunce for doing that. And that he's basically putting the whole world in jeopardy by doing so. So I just wanted to know you guys' thoughts on it. Obviously, I know it goes a lot deeper. We've got Deep State Iran, we've got Iran the country. I think they're separate topics, but let's just get your opinion.
So the very important thing to clear up first is I don't see this as an Iran thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't see this as a thing of the Iranian people. I see this as there's a global corporate conglomerate that has influence beyond any one nation state, I say America and the infrastructure of America in the pre-Trump administration were the massive orchestrators, and that is the power. I think the other pillars around the world where the obliques are, so U.S., Vatican, London, are involved very deeply in this global web. The intelligence agencies, large orchestrators of this global web. And for the most part, this web is just been rogue, very rogue, right? So pre-Trump getting into office, Obama said, your biggest challenge, Kim Jong-un. You won't be able to pull it off. He wasn't be able to pull it off. Why wasn't Obama able to pull it off? He weren't trying to pull it off, right? Then Trump steps in,
Does it?
denuclearizes North Korea. But North Korea, well, why do you think Kim was actually quite cool to deal with Trump? Well, maybe Kim didn't like his own situation, how his own situation was. Maybe Kim wasn't really a dictator that everyone thought that Kim was. I'm not saying Kim's a good guy. I'm saying maybe he weren't the guy that was putting the thumb down on people. Maybe he was having the thumb put down on him, right? So where was that thumb coming from? And maybe that's a similar situation in Iran being the last pillar that they can actually put their thumb down on because they don't have North Korea anymore, right? So then you got to think the narrative behind all of this stuff, which is Trump gets office and Russiagate.
Yeah.
Okay. World War III.
Yeah.
Russia. Okay. Then Trump just smashes that out of the park. They couldn't literally get 2 and 2 and get 4. They couldn't even get 3 or 5. They got 2 and 2 and they got super jello pudding with some marshmallow middle. Right?
Yeah.
Made no sense. Okay. Then the next thing was North Korea. Okay. World War III. Remember, Trump sent missiles, things were going on, things were popping off, right? De-escalated. It wasn't World War III. Now Iran, World War III. How many times we got World War III?
Yeah.
Right? Also as well is what did all conflicts in the Middle East stop?
Yeah.
Right? Well, when did they stop? I didn't get that memo.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all about the political agenda and again, the democratic process, right? The deep state or the orchestrators above who, when they're not getting it their way, they are trying to hold up the mirror, which only shows their image and push and make it seem like this is Trump and this is what is really actually going on. They're trying to polarize terrorists as heroes.
Yeah.
Right? There's a mandate of how they're going to destabilize the Middle East.
Yeah.
A mandate that actually goes back to the Clinton era. Okay? And they'll execute to the T. Every single time Obama went into the Middle East or Bush went into the Middle East to help the Middle Eastern people, show me every country that entered pre and post.
Yeah.
Every country that entered pre and post. Okay? Now, would a president who's acting on behalf of his people, okay, which then makes the American people responsible by proxy to the destabilization of the Middle East. That's why the American reputation around the world is very unfairly tarnished because of this, right? I'm pretty confident that no American will be proud of the pre and post images that are seen of, say, Libya, right? Libya was a thriving African nation. Per capita wealth was insane, right? One of the highest in the world. And you look at those pre and post images in the sake of helping the Libyan people or Iraqi people, Iranian people, right? And this is the stuff that needs to stop, right? Conflicts is one thing, but conflicts with different masks and not knowing who you're fighting is a very, very malicious other thing, okay? And when it's all serving the whole fear porn narrative that they push with their media outlets, right? You got to think at a deeper level, well, okay, this is why I like to use the sheep and shepherd analogy, right? Because everyone is terrorized, being a population of the sheep, by the dog, which is the terrorist, and then the people flock and flood towards the gates of salvation. And the shepherd who opens the gate of salvation, thinking that's your savior, but it's the same fucker that not only locks the gate behind you, it was the fucker that set the dog on you in the first place.
Yeah.
And this is what is happening. And the trick is that when the whole herd is like pushing you to like this way, oh yeah, World War III, and it's all Trump's fault, yada, yada, yada. Your responsibility is not to take this person's word as gospel, not to take my word as gospel. It's to pop your freaking head up at the parapet, have a freaking look around and see the shepherd's got a dog whistle in his mouth. He's controlling this guy.
Yeah.
I was like, something wrong here.
Yeah.
It's something logical here.
Do you think that on the Trump and Iran stuff, do you think there was some sort of communication between Trump and Iran to take out Qasem Soleimani? And the reason why I say that is because obviously there was the attack on the US embassy in Iraq.
But why weren't anyone killed?
Exactly. And they got a tip off. And that it was actually the Twitter account for the Iraqi Prime Minister. So the Iraqi Prime Minister tweeted this, Adel Abdul Mahdi. He said, response to the assassination of the martyr Qasem Soleimani had begun or would start shortly and would be limited to the US military stationed in Iraq. So he got tipped off by that, by the Iranians. At the same time, they were informed by the Americans that strikes had begun against US forces at various locations in Iraq.
So definitely, I think there's coordination, 100% there's coordination.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's always been a global web. So if you clean up the people who are orchestrating the global web in a malevolent way, the infrastructure is still there, right? So the benevolent forces, I think, are definitely in communication flow, and it's just operation cleanup.
Yeah.
And what's interesting then, these are the things that really pee me off, right? There were reports that 30 US soldiers were killed.
Yeah.
How did you get that information so quickly? And yet you can't get me photos of Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
Tell me what happened to Epstein and telling me about this guy in like 2 minutes.
Yeah. On something that's happened in a complete different location.
Yeah.
Epstein had
Outside of your
cameras.
home. Yeah.
There was cameras.
Guards.
There was cameras. There was guards. He was on watch.
Yeah.
All right.
And you can't
And
get me
you
any
can't
photos.
tell me what happened to Epstein. And you're telling me not only what's happened in this situation, you're telling me how many casualties there are. And then the official report comes out and says there was no US casualties. There was no casualties. Right. And then people are still taking the media with credit and credence. It's BS.
And you see what you're saying about media skewing opinions as well. And again, this is even when Ricky Gervais was talking, not to bring it back to there again, but we'll do it. When he was talking about corporate America, talking about Apple, Tim Apple, and literally linking corporate America to ISIS.
Yeah.
Linking corporate America directly to ISIS. And I don't think that was just a joke. He'd done that on purpose for particular reasons. And it is this whole thing where it's America isn't just America. You have, of course, the Trump campaign, who is the current president. Then you have the divide, which is the corporate America. So people need to be able to completely break apart those two and understand that in every single area, whether it's corporate, whether it's politics, you're always going to have good and bad people. You're going to have good and bad people. And it's about trying to weed out all of those bad people. And that is currently what is going on with the Trump campaign and just America in general. They're weeding out all of the bad people.
Trying to drain the swamp.
Draining the swamp.
What makes me slightly concerned is keeping the weeds out, right?
Yeah.
And this is why Bitcoin really is so important. This is why we need to stop pissing around, which I'm glad SV community isn't anymore. And just get our infrastructure built, because we clean out, what's to prevent the waters getting mucky again, right? And this is why we need to install infrastructure straight away that enforces transparency and accountability, right? And that doesn't mean that it's like a floating token value, all that kind of stuff that people like get too caught up on. This is just about infrastructure, right? And having a unilateral source of truth, one place of truth where all your infrastructure, all your systems are on top of a audit trail. And that will give me the peace and confidence in knowing that this is going to stand the test of time now. This is now not about, okay, one president finally getting in and actually using the office to serve the population, right? People can have their own opinions as to whether they feel Trump is or isn't doing that. I'm not saying that everything that Trump does is great. Definitely not saying that.
Yeah.
But if you look at what he's done in the space of time in which he's done it in comparison to others, it's freaking incredible.
Yeah.
Right? And the fact that the media hates him so much is very telling. Very, very, very telling. But the most important thing is it's only upon completion can final judgment be made on the subject of Trump. That's us included.
Yeah.
Right? It's still some time to go. This year is mad important because we've obviously got the
2020
elections.
election,
And see, this is what makes me laugh about anti-Trump people, right? I'm happy to accept any argument against Trump healthily, and please educate me. I really want people to educate me on the subject matter why they think he's not the right option. But then tell me who's the right option. Because Biden? Like, who have they got to run against him?
Yeah. The thing is, I think everyone just expects this knight in shining armor and this perfect being of a human to be in a particular seat and make all of the right choices 100% of the time. That's not a reality.
While under attack.
While under attack.
Brutal attack.
Bear in mind, the Obama administration ordered many different attacks that have happened. We've never seen this sort of backlash. As soon as Trump orders an attack, a huge backlash, World War III is about to enact. Bear in mind that he's now running up for re-election. So he would have done this for reasons. It's a risky time for him to order an attack. So the risk was worth it, basically, on who it was that they were executing right then and there.
I think that the elections are a landslide for him.
Yeah.
There's
I was
no
going to
way
say,
he's
on that
losing
note,
this.
do you think he's going to get 2020 election?
Oh, 100.
Yeah.
He has so much of a
100.
following as well. This is
think
the
about
crazy
it.
thing
Yeah,
about
go on.
it. He's even got following in Iraq as well.
Iran. Like Iranian
Yeah,
people
and
were
Iran,
writing
Iraq.
in Iranian, like, thank you, Trump.
Literally. There was protests on the street in Iraq from when he issued that attack on Soleimani, and they were celebrating.
Now, I
Celebrating.
don't fully agree with everything that Trump does.
His tweets were a little bit reckless.
Yeah,
with
some of
this
the
as well.
tweets are
Yeah.
reckless. Like, for example,
So just very quickly on the celebration aspect of, like, say, people being pro-Trump, even that I don't really buy into, and I don't buy into the opposite of people like all death to America, yada yada.
Yeah.
These things are very easy to game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unless you're there yourself, you don't know what kind of camera tricks are being used. You don't know if
Yeah.
they're using the angle that makes it look like it's 1,000 and really it's only like 20
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So, like, again, even with that on the positive side, we have to use our own discernment.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, go.
And sorry, again, like personal opinion. So the tweet that Trump actually put out about sending over his shiny new equipment, I don't think that was the right thing to be.
It wasn't the best way
saying.
to phrase it. Yeah.
I just dropped 2 trillion.
Yeah. And we'll be sending it your way.
Mad shiny.
It's coming in pretty boxes as well. But look at it this way. So he's ordered off the attack, and you've got the media talking left, right, and center. Trump, he doesn't have to tweet to the public to let them know exactly what he's doing at that particular time. End of the day, this is someone that is writing whatever message he wants to write at that particular time. So he's telling you his truth. Yeah, he's not got a million people next to him saying, do you know what? No, I don't think you should put that in that tweet there.
Yeah.
So at least you know exactly what is coming
Literally, imagine
across.
that. What's my handle? POTUS. Shut the fuck up.
And do you know what? The thing is, because he's old school, and with just old school people, if you try and tell them anything in terms of like social media, like don't do this, no.
Yeah.
So even though people take that and they take that information and scrutinize it, and to be honest with you, with some of it I do agree with. I don't think he should be putting certain things in it, but at the same time, it's putting us in a position where we are getting direct information from the president, what his real opinions are at that time, completely unscripted.
It's a step in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
Because what these things should happen soon is economic policy should be discussed publicly.
Yeah.
Anything really that is not a risk to any country's sovereignty and security, which are like private matters and cross-pollination across politics, etc. We definitely need to get to a more open area of leadership where if you're a public servant, you need to kind of fit the bill. You need to be a public servant, right? Yeah. But then obviously there are certain aspects that can never really be discussed publicly and never can be discussed publicly.
Just on that note, let's just end it on, I know we're short for time, but I just want to get your opinion on actually the UK election then. Literally just a quick one. What are your thoughts on Boris Johnson now being the Prime Minister?
Well, okay, if I judge Boris, I'd just leave it on Boris.
The part that I see is, do you remember when he slide tackled that kid?
See, this is the problem, right? We're Brits, okay? You mentioned Boris Johnson, and we're laughing, and we're giggling, okay? And this is the guy that has to go in and discuss our foreign policy. Right? Now, what makes me more confident is the global strategy that's happening, right? And I've heard quite positive things towards the direction of Johnson and about Johnson's role in fulfilling the global role here in the UK, which, considering how vitally important UK and in particular London is to the global agenda, we just got to band behind him and we got to hope that he can deliver the plan without giving away all the moves. Right, that's my concern with Johnson, if I'm being completely honest, is him bumbling his way into stuff that really he shouldn't have bumbled his way into. But I see it more as a global council that's being formed. And through that global council, I mean, every country will have a say in this. And I think every country has a benevolent side, which is really working their ass off to deliver something a lot more positive for all of us on the planet, because we are reaching a technological point where it's actually borderline impossible to keep those shadows for any longer. And that's what I find so interesting. So you mentioned Cesar Pias, or Cesar Pias. The Americans allowed and filed that patent because they were fearful the Chinese would. And therefore, all space exploration, if utilized on that patent, that any other nation would have done, they would have been funding China. You have to pay China a rip, right? So from an American standpoint, they didn't want that, right? But the fact that that was even part of the thought process, oh shit, China's gonna file it first. We need to file it because we need to make sure that America was responsible for delivering something like that. We're not paying the Chinese for delivering this, right? And also you got the fact that Chinese sent a mission to the moon. I think it was last year, within the last 2 years. Ironically, the dark side of the moon, and they only sent back one image, right? But they were on the dark side of the moon.
I need to look into that. I haven't looked into that.
So
that's interesting.
So many truth bombs are going to start dropping. I reckon post U.S. presidential election. Right? Agreed. So we get up to this point, I reckon Trump's going to take this by a landslide because at the end of the day, look, what do they got? They got this whole impeachment BS where Pelosi, she holds onto the documents, she screws herself. Woman. She released the documents, she screws herself. So like, what are you going to do?
And impeachment it's not really that much of a big deal either.
It's not a big deal, especially an impeachment on the basis of, okay, he hasn't done nothing right now, but we think he's going to do something, so we're going to wait. Right? And then create every scenario possible to try and be like, got you now, here's the document. Right? It's just, do you really think we're that stupid? Like, do you really? And it's the same similar thing that was happening here in the UK with the whole Brexit situation, the BS that was going on. So I think the global collective now are getting way more informed, far more informed. Then you've got geniuses like Ricky Gervais who just tell it how it is in such a comedic, entertaining way.
That's just my mood all year. Is Ricky Gervais.
100%. And we need more of these light bulb moments. And to be honest with you, I don't reckon it's going to take much more now.
No, not at all.
People are very, very much awake. I'm seeing crazy reports in mainstream media about subject matters that would have been insanely controversial only a couple of years ago. And I think that's nothing but positive for everyone here. So I've said and I've maintained on my social media and stuff that I'm so positive about humanity right now. I'm so positive about the fact that people really are having great conversations, great discourse, asking amazing questions. And also I love to see that we're having fun with how we discuss these conversations. The meme game strong. On the internet.
Meme gay culture is just amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
In fact, that's actually a really important way of distributing information. It's very hard.
I was literally just to say that.
Very hard for the NSA to read text and images.
Yeah, you think about it. That what was it? The Drake and who was the guy that he was clashing with? The Drake and Meek Mills. Rap battle that was happening. Literally, Drake beat Meek Mill just from memes.
The new rap battle.
Yeah.
No, drop this. I got this Kermit, man. Drop this. You want to sound out?
Yeah, and literally just on that point as well, I think it's like you said, when we are researching topics like this, there are topics that can really, really pull at your heartstrings. And I think kind of discussing it in a way, using meme culture, not so much to make a joke of things, but to make it digestible and palatable for people to actually then go and use their own due diligence to go off and do their own research, and they can kind of go off on the rabbit holes themselves. But I think using memes is such a great way to get people involved and everyone involved on just basically researching humanity and figuring out what's been going on. But yeah, on that note, this has been great. I'm sure there's going to be loads of stuff for us to talk about.
Come up on stage, accept your little award, thank your agent, thank your God, and fuck off. Sorry.
We should edit it.
Literally. Lighter edition.
Whoever came up after that. Oh my gosh. Whoever came up to accept an award after that.
I haven't seen, to be fair.
Thank you.
I haven't seen that. I want to see the first person who comes on
I think it was
stage.
Jennifer Aniston and someone else. Jennifer
A political
Aniston.
statement. I want to see the first celeb
first
that
political
attempted
statement.
a political statement. I know one celeb was speaking about obviously the Australian fires and obviously failed to realise there's been like 200 people arrested for arson.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of them being a firefighter. They've not been arrested, but they've been charged.
Yeah, so yeah, just it's brilliant. Just brilliant. But all that being said, guys, girls, crazy out there. But if you do your research, your due diligence, tap into your own discernment, keep balanced, don't overly judge. Also factor where the information's coming from that are highlighting these things and what these people are up to. And if there is, I guess, a war, it's a war on information. Yeah. And that's the one that needs to be focused on because everyone has a role in that war of information. So when information does come on your lap, just if it's interest to you, let it be deeper. And even if it's positive and it fits into the concept that you see of the world, don't just take that at face value. I don't mean do it on everything because that's very exhausting.
Yeah.
But subject matters like, say, Harry and Meghan, the Iranian situation, Epstein, just
ask questions, and I think never underestimate the power plant in the seed.
Nah, this has been awesome, man. I love the fact that I always get to actually hash it out with you guys as well.
Yeah.
So we'll do this again. We're sticking to our mandate. I think we're like every couple of weeks now with this. And I can't imagine things in the world sizzling down anytime soon. So until the next time, peace, love, and light.